Michelle, good morning. Good morning. We're live with the Morning Mint.
Good morning, Phil. How's it going? Good morning, Triple Mint
Good. I'm
people.
just going to get Amy on here.
Cool. This is so fun. I'm so excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Really excited to have you this morning.
Great to be here. This is the first time I've been a guest on anything that's Instagram Live.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, last week was my first time doing any Instagram Live, so that's I'm not that much more experienced.
Well, you look like a pro.
Amy, welcome. How are you?
Good morning.
Hi, Amy.
So today is Thursday, May 13th for everyone who's just joining, and we are live at the Morning Mint. Welcome to everyone. Today we are joined by two very special guests. We have Michelle Mumoli and Amy Goldman, and today we are talking all about that sixth borough of New Jersey. We're going to split this into three segments today. We're going to talk about local news, then go through a market update, and finally wrap up with some events and happenings in the area. So let's get started. We can kick it off with Michelle. Michelle, what's up in real estate news?
What's up in real estate news? Well, in Jersey City, month over month, we've been seeing about a 12% median increase in sales price.
12% month over month.
12% month over month, which
That
is
unbelievable.
Yeah, we've had, it's been pretty strong. I think when we're a direct subset of Manhattan, and so is Hoboken, and we can talk about that. When you guys were shut down, we were considered essential and we were still working last year. So March obviously was a difficult time. Things didn't happen. But April of 2020 was when my phone started ringing off the hook with everyone kind of just flooding from different areas coming into Jersey City. So to see that still continuing to be strong is a great thing.
Wow, that's great. So 12% month over month though, what do you think is driving that? You know, why April? I'm assuming that's April versus March of 2021.
Right. You know, I think lower interest rates, I think the fact that a lot of people can't get into properties in certain areas where properties are priced higher and they're seeing their money just kind of being thrown down the drain and they're paying somebody else's mortgage. It's more important for them to say if they're at a $2,500 rental, they can most likely afford a mortgage somewhere. So they're looking to areas that are very close to Manhattan, along the New Jersey Transit train, because I serve a lot of those relocations as well into the suburban markets. So it's nice to see them want to stay close to the city, but know that they can get into somewhat of an affordable price point. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, and just to give us some context, right? That 12% month over month. What is that median price, or what's the range?
It's probably going to be somewhere in the $500,000 price point. Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. And there was an interesting article that I think we were talking about earlier. Amy, maybe you can touch on this about the median home price in New Jersey year over year.
So some of the stats that I actually prepared for today's meeting were for Hoboken specifically. But for Hoboken specifically, the median price month over month has gone up 11%, and that's leaving us around $750,000 for the median sale price in Hoboken, which for a 1 square mile is pretty impressive.
Yeah, for sure. Michelle, I think, do you want to touch on the New Jersey median home price year over year?
Yeah, so the median home prices year over year have really kind of come up to about the same as they are in Jersey City. We're seeing a lot of historically very in-demand towns like the Montclairs and the Maplewood and South Oranges of the world, seeing the next door towns to them also have a high demand. I mean, I have to tell you that I have never, in my entire career, I've been in this business for 8 years, probably a lot less than a lot of people. And that's my conversations with a lot of those agents out in the suburban markets, is as far north as Ringwood, to as far west as Lambertville and Princeton, to as far south as Potentially really even Atlantic City, to be honest with you, because a
That's my
lot of those
hometown.
investment properties are now like, really kind of a hot commodity.
Yeah.
Bidding wars all over the place, things going for above asking with 10, 20 offers on the table. So,
Yeah, there was so NJ.com had an article that the average price of a New Jersey home is $100,000 higher than it is last year. And I think the thing that really stood out to me about that is that we're not talking New York City prices where the average may have jumped from 1.8 to 1.9. The average jumped from 400 to 500. It was almost a 25% jump year over year. That is unbelievable.
yeah, I say this, I have a story that I've been saying because it's an unbelievable story. And it's an unbelievable story that it happened. So, I have these amazing buyers. They were actually a referral from one of our Manhattan agents. We've probably submitted about 20 offers, but an offer $350,000 above asking price. And they ended up being number 9 on a list of 30.
Wait, you just said they submitted 20 offers.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what's going through the mind of that buyer on like number 12?
So number 1, 2, 3 is kind of like, this is as high as we want to go, right? And I always have everybody get pre-approved. I always have everybody talk to the lenders because most people can afford a little more, but they always want to stay a little bit more conservative on their monthly. Those end up kind of rejiggering their mentality of, well, how much more can we really afford? And so I kind of like flip them back to, let's have a conversation with the lender. Let's see what he says. Do you have any big bonuses coming in? Like, what is something that's really going to make it happen for you? And then ultimately it increases. But at some point, everyone has their max. So their max is important to know because, there's the estate tax. If you're purchasing something over $1 million, that's really important for everyone to know that it's a one-time fee, but it's important for people to know that. And there's also are you really paying too much for this property? That is the question of the day, right? Like, how badly do you want this property? How wonderful is this property?
And is it going to resell? You're ever going to get your money out of it?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people that are moving into the suburban markets right now are not probably going to sell for another 20 years. But historically, a lot of these places like the Bloomfield, Clifton, New Jersey, these smaller towns that are subsections of these Maplewoods and Montclairs have never seen appreciation rates higher than maybe 1% to 2% per year.
Mm-hmm.
So this past year has been just wild to see that happen.
So, you have all these people who are submitting all these offers, can't get what they're looking for. In general, where are they coming from, and what is the alternative? Are these people who are needing to get out of a rental? Where are they going when they can't get that accepted offer?
They're coming from a lot of different places. I have sellers that I'm selling their properties and putting them into another place, in another area of New Jersey. I have people coming in from Brooklyn. I have people coming in from Manhattan that are tenants or people selling their properties in these locations and moving here, in Jersey City or Hoboken and moving out there. So if it's a contingent offer, they have to know that most likely, unless their property is already under contract and it's about to close, their offer may not get accepted. It may not be competitive enough. But now I'm starting to see that there's also contingent sales because the sellers can't get into something else on the seller side. So they're saying, can we do a sale leaseback? So it's a domino effect of sale leasebacks where it's like everyone's attorneys needs to get their ducks in a row of like, let's talk about a sale leaseback for a specific period of time, which a lot of lenders don't like to discuss. But I think if it's a very small portion of time, it's okay.
Right. I mean, I've heard actually one of the things that's actually slowing up the market is fear by sellers that they're not going to be able to find their next place. Because I don't want to sell because I'm afraid that I can't buy right now. And therefore, I'm not going to list my property. And it becomes, as you mentioned, a domino effect.
I always tamper that by saying, I'm going to find you what you're looking for. Whether or not it's on the market, it's regardless. I'm going to find you something, no matter where you want to go, because I have historically always found people something. It is just a matter of being able to put your property on the market, get that kind of wrapped up and squared away, know that you're in contract and your attorneys are going to deal with that, and do a sale leaseback and be very clear with that buyer coming in that you may need a little bit of time to move. But I know the logistics of how attorney reviews work and how under contracts are kind of happen, where I can kind of say, okay, this is now moving in the right direction. We can move and start looking for properties. And maybe we do that a little bit sooner now because there's going to be a lot of people that lose out.
Right. Yeah. No. There's so much competition that it's a little nerve-wracking to sell these days.
Yeah.
Amy, what else is going on in the news?
Well, obviously as I alluded before, the days on the market is another factor that we've been noticing. Obviously, it's much shorter. So that's down 11%. So obviously the median home price has gone up and then the days on the market's gone down. So that shows us there's a really large appetite as far as buyers are concerned. And I would actually add a couple thoughts on that as far as what I think is driving that right now. I think there's a lot of people there's some, and I actually have this personal experience with clients of mine from the wealth management side who did the boomerang thing. They moved to the burbs and then they were like, nope, that's not for me. And my company's calling me back. I have to be back June 1. A lot of major firms are calling people back June 1.
Right.
So, the commute, I thought I could handle it, and I've tried it a couple times, and maybe it's not the thing for me. So I'm going to try to come back to the area because we miss it, and we feel like it was a better rhythm for us as a family. So I've had a couple of those.
Were these people who had bought?
They bought in the suburbs and sold and made money because they bought when things were
in 1 year.
Yes.
So that is a really interesting story. I actually haven't seen any of that in like the major news publications.
You'll probably never get that again in history.
Oh,
in the suburbs. Yeah.
My client $1,000 on the home that they sold, and by the way, it was not a terribly expensive home. The home that they purchased was $600,000. They sold it for $709, I think was the final sales price. So offers, by the way, they put it up they listed it as just enough to cover the realtor costs, right? To pay the commission and get their money back. And they ended up making money on it. So unusual, not typical, of course. And this is nothing really usual in this environment right now. Everything is a whole new familiar is what I like to call it. But yeah, that's another example of something that I've seen. And I would add actually that, I get a lot of questions from people because I kind of wear both hats, right? I work in the wealth management space, but I also work with a lot of clients on real estate. And in my wealth management practice, I do a ton of work on people making sure they have non-correlating assets. That means things that won't behave the same when the market goes haywire. And real estate is considered a very good hedge against inflation and also an incredible hedge against rising interest rates. So I have people coming to me and saying, Amy, right now I have a little bit of cash. I got a bonus, or, I've saved some money over the last year because I've been home. What should I do with that cash? And we've talked about either doing a diversified real estate portfolio or taking that money, investing in a piece of property. Now, depending on how wild the markets are in the areas that they're interested in, you have to always, and this is I think my last thought on this, you always have to have an exit strategy. So when you purchase a property, a stock, a bond, an ETF, whatever that is, you have to know what is the price that I want to be able to get out of this when I leave. And even if you plan on being in that property for 10 years. So somebody who significantly overpays for a property today could find themselves in a precarious position if their company relocated them in 2 years, or if they found themselves, in a challenging situation with their family life, right? So those are things that you always have to consider. But I look at risk for a living. So
it's interesting. I had a professor in college, one of my favorite professors, a guy named Robert Schiller, who his view invented the home index. His view was that real estate asset prices over time remain relatively consistent when you account for inflation. So his view is that real estate is a horrible investment. And if you look at the stock market, you should always put your money into the stock market instead. But I think when he was doing that, he didn't account for leverage.
Yes. And listen, I would also say to that is, we've seen really strong real estate returns over the last year. This is unusual, but
Absolutely.
Typically, people who are looking for, in the rate environment that we've had over the last, let's call it 10, for people who are looking for income, it's been really difficult for them to find that income using traditional fixed income, right? So like bonds or CDs. But for somebody who's looking for income, real estate has been a great way to provide them with that income instead of them having to be locked into a bond that could potentially lose value if interest rates go up and down. The real estate's a little bit more consistent as far as how it's going to progress over a 5, 10, 15-year process. And the last piece of that is if you look at Harvard, Stanford, the California State Pension Fund, Missouri State Trooper Fund, they all use the endowment model. And that endowment model follows the thought process that, again, going back to what I had said earlier, you have to have assets that will behave the same. They don't correlate. And real estate is always included. And it's always a larger piece of the pie. So your private equity, private credit, hedge funds, those are a smaller piece of that. Real estate is always a bigger piece of it because of the way it's behaved historically and the returns and the income that's provided.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because David Swenson, unfortunately, just passed away in the last week. He was the one who invented the endowment model at Yale, and then all of the other schools took it over.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a good point. And last week we were talking with Jim McCartan a bit about people who use real estate to sort of buy in one unit and live in another, and different ways to kind of leverage the current interest rate environment in order to to make money while they're living in the unit.
Sure, that's smart investing.
Yeah, that's great. So let's transition for a second. I think we have a couple stats about what's going on in the market today. Michelle, Hudson County.
Hudson County, overall average sales price is up 6% month over month.
Okay, wow.
Yes. Pretty good. Pretty good. And, it ebbs and flows. I think that's what everybody has to understand about the market, is that it ebbs and flows. And sometimes it's going to be higher and sometimes it's going to be lower. And, again, we're saying real estate is a great investment.
And it's very clear we're in this just unprecedented time where there's a huge amount of these month-over-month increases are massive. Potentially, some might say unsustainable, though it in the moment it really doesn't seem that way.
Yeah, it's a lot of buyers. Overall, I think this real estate market is seeing a lot of buyers that have a lot of liquidity. They're putting in higher than 20%. Down payments. They are very well pre-approved by lenders before they're even looking. So it's not something that's going to just kind of burst in the middle of the day. So
yeah,
it's not Bitcoin.
And what's going on around town?
In Jersey City, we have the famous smorgasbord coming from Williamsburg into the Harborside area. That's really great news. The Exchange Place Alliance is a special improvement district. Jersey City is comprised of many different special improvement districts, really close to Exchange Place Path, and they have done a really great job of bringing a lot of, I think it's going to be, oh boy, I'm probably wrong with this stat, but I think it's going to be like 200 food vendors. I think they are keeping some type of management on people coming into the space for COVID reasons, but that starts at the end of the month on May 29th, and it will continue, I think, until the fall, every Saturday.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
First year they're doing that.
First year. This is the very first time.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Finally, they're seeing us across the river. Hey, Brooklyn, what's up?
And Amy,
what goes on in Hoboken? I mean,
what's going on around town?
I would challenge that there's a lot going on in town, but there's also some stuff going on outside of town.
Perfect.
Hoboken Girl did a great article on the different flower farms that you can visit with your kind of a fun event that you can get out in nature and enjoy yourself. And my family went to the Holland Ridge Farms in New Jersey and picked tulips. So I took my 6-year-old and she literally ripped tulips out of the ground.
Oh, wow. It's like the spring version of apple picking.
It 120% is. Yes, it was pretty awesome. And I have to tell you, the Instagram worthy moments were there. So
I'm sure, because why else do people do those things?
Obviously. All right.
That's awesome. And that didn't happen last year because of COVID, right? So people just drove through. I think that was the story.
Actually, I was reading about the specific farm, and they had spent $1 million to plant all of the bulbs, and then nobody was able to pick them because of COVID. So,
oh no.
They ended up distributing them. They did make good use of them, so it was nice. But so we have that happening in New Jersey, but actually here in Hoboken, for some people who know me, I am the founder and of Flag, which is a front group. And now that our front line is kind of in a place where they're maintaining, we've changed our resources and our platform to support other organizations here locally. And for the month of May, we're supporting Women Rising, which is an organization that helps take women who have been affected by, or people in general that have been affected by domestic violence, help them get housing, help them get furniture, train them for the workforce, help them find jobs and things of that nature. So if you're around town and you want to stop by the Hive, Beanbot Coffee or Hudson Coffee, we had 3 local bakers to donate items to those 3 bakeries, and they've offered to sell them for us. Those bakers are a 12-year-old baker, Baker 12, a 14-year-old baker, Bake Eat Love, and then obviously the famous Boomerang Bites, our good friend Andrea Rivsey. And 100% of those proceeds are to Women Rising. So that's kind of an exciting, grab your latte cookie and do some good.
Wow, that's amazing. We'll definitely have to check that out, and perhaps for everyone listening, you can comment those the details of that in the post that we're going to put up in a minute.
Sure, I'd love to.
That'd be great. Well, thank you so much, Amy and Michelle, for joining me this morning and sharing sharing your wisdom with our audience. We really appreciate it. It's Thursday, May 13th. I hope everyone will tune in tonight to the second episode in the season, $1 Million Listing, and watch our very own Tyler on the show and see if he can sell that $12 million apartment. Hope everybody has an unbelievable day. Tune in daily at 8 a.m. to the Morning Mint. And if you have any questions about buying, selling, or renting, you can DM us at Triple Mint Real Estate. Get in touch with Amy or Michelle, and I will post their information in this post. Or you can walk right into our office at 331 Washington Street in downtown Hoboken. We're there. We're happy to help. And see everyone tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.